What's up, everybody? KRK Beats back here at Out the Box Studios. It's such a pleasure to be here with you guys, and I appreciate everybody who's subscribing to the channel. If you haven't already, please hit the subscription button as well as the notification bell. That's if you would like, of course. We're gonna, keep putting out new content. Keep bringing you new reviews. We look at audio reviews, we look at movie reviews, music, all different type of content. I just try to pace myself. I don't like rush putting out videos. But for this video, I am going to be talking about subwoofers, specifically the Kaliaudio WS12 live studio monitor subwoofer. That's a lot to say. If you see me looking down, it's because I have a little cheat sheet here because I'm going to talk about the specifications or the specs, and I'm going to kind of take you down and look at the sub kind of in relation to me and size, as far as the size of the sub, because it's hard to tell when you first see it in a video. But again, thank you for joining me. As I said, we're looking at the Kaliaudio subwoofer WS12. It's a 12-inch subwoofer. It's powered. It is D-class amplified. It has a continuous power rating of 500 watts, a peak power rating of 1,000. And I'm not going to go through all the technical specs. You can look that up at Kaliaudio's website. I may show a few on the screen, but I really just want to talk about real-world use. And also subwoofers, because that's what the subject of this video is. I didn't think I needed or wanted, because I don't need it. The KRK sound great, but the adding of it was an additional tool, put it like that, in engineering, and really tailoring low end. Most systems, no matter where you go, will have a subwoofer, larger studios, what have you. Why is that? Because think about having a sound bar without a subwoofer. You could have the greatest sound bar in the world, but if you don't add that subwoofer in there to add the low end information, nada. And with the KRKs, they go down to, I believe, 23 hertz. No, 29. And the Kali sub goes down to 23 hertz, up to 160 hertz and down to 23 hertz. So, roughly, like I said, you can look and get all the full specs on the spec sheet, but just so you have an idea. But even with and I spoke about it in the year review of the KRKs, that there was still low end information missing, and I didn't bring that. I touched on it a little bit, but I didn't really talk about that in detail because I wanted to save it for this review. You would be surprised the low end punch and just massive low end of a sub. You can't even, no monitors are going to do that because they're more full range. A sub is tailored specifically for that. Many know that, but that's what a subwoofer does. So the pros and cons of this particular sub, because all subs are going to be different, but some features you want to look for. Look for a sub that offers a foot pedal switch. That way you can, and I'm going to put a link to one I found on Amazon, really, really nice. You can tap and turn the sub off, tap, turn it on, just like a guitar amp, foot pedal switch. That's basically what it is. Look for, the crossover. Look for a sub that offers tailoring to your room and space, things like that. Just some basic features, but this one has it'll go in bypass mode where it'll shut off. Things like that you want to look at in a subwoofer. Do they offer that? And you have to match it with the monitors you have. And the nice thing about the Kali sub is half the price as the matching KRK sub. So KRK, I love you, but the sub that will match these, I believe, is like it's the high output 12 KRK subwoofer they make. That sub is like $1,500. So this is like, that's almost 3 times as much as this subwoofer. So really put that in perspective. If you're building a home movie setup, not just a studio, I would recommend checking this sub out. Now, one con or one adjustment and I talked about it in the KRK video, was gain staging. This really opened my eyes to gain staging and what it takes to get a clean sound, because I hear a lot of people in comments say that, well, these studio monitors are loud, or these, have a lot of hiss. All studio monitors, even the most expensive, they create some noise. They have data on the noise of that, monitors make, each one what they're rated. But realistically, home studio, you're not gonna buy. I mean, some people will, obviously, but most people are not gonna buy $100,000 or $80,000 or even an $8,000 pair of studio monitors in a home system. I'm not saying people don't; they do, but the majority of people don't. Not in a home system. You go to the other studio, the big studio, for that. Long story short, with this sub, you get the low end level of a big studio with the KRKs. And I just, in the other video, I talked about the appreciation for them. They're in a class by themselves, in my opinion. And, put in the comments if you disagree, but they are one of the best monitors on the market, period, when you look at price to what they offer. Hands down, KRK, the Rocket 12s are probably one of the best sounding studio monitors on the market, period. Adding this sub to it, and that's in my opinion. Many may disagree. I know they're not the best, but for home studios. But adding the sub, that crossover in the Kaliaudio sub is very, very loud. And I know they came out with the second wave studio monitors because a lot of people complain about the noise. This one, they probably put out a second wave sub. Oh well, because it taught me about gain staging. I knew some, but in more detail. Not gain staging and mixing, but gain staging in your setup, which is, I knew some about, but you're always learning. That's the key to life, right? So with that, I turned the volume of the KRKs down 10 decibels, 10 to 12, because they make about, that crossover seems to make about 10 to 12 decibels of noise, which, yes, that's a lot of noise to make. But by turning my KRKs down, because that's how I have them wired, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the wiring setup, but and I'm going to put links to what you need to order as far as cabling and my hookup spot, Monoprice. If you don't know about them, I'm going to do a video on them because that's where you get all your cables and cords and whatnot at. But anyways, once I ran it through there, and I read a review and somebody said they returned it because of the noise. And I left the studio. That's why it's good to leave the studio. Came back like a day later and it hit me. Oh, turn the volume of the speaker down. So by turning the volume of the KRKs down 10 decibels, you still hear a hiss, but it was like noticeably like torture. Like you would put somebody in a torture room and turn that on and let them listen to it. That's how loud that hiss was. But by turning the speaker down, that hiss creates a nice atmospheric sound. I need to put the book down, but it's atmospheric sound in the monitor, but you don't want it too loud to where it's audible. One thing about the KRK monitors, they had this electronic kind of noise in the background. I think it's reading the Wi-Fi or internet or something, but you're hearing it do that. And as it crosses over through the Kali sub, you lose that, but you get just a clean hiss, if that makes sense. It's just clean, but by turning the speaker down and then turning the volume from my monitor selector up. If you don't have a monitor selector, good idea to check one out. I'll do some reviews on that. But long story short, whether it's your interface or your monitor selector, turn that volume up and adjust your gain there. So you're getting more gain, but it's cleaner because you turn the noise from the speaker down. Gain staging. Many people probably already know that. I'm just learning more about it. I know about it, but as you make adjustments to your studio, you have to change the levels of things to match other pieces of equipment. So learn that lesson. Nice sub. Back to that sub, man. It's clean. The low end, man, I was listening to a few records. I'm not going to play anything because you're not really going to hear it in the video. And I don't want to get flagged, but trust and believe when I tell you the low end, so clean. Here's one other point when it comes to a sub. There's like 3 major reasons why a sub is optimal in your studio. I put it like that. I ain't gonna say you have to have it, because you don't have to have nothing, but 1, it's cleaner, punchier low end, because it's just the low end. It's taking, I put mine, I think, at 60 hertz. I put the crossover, I believe. So everything from 60 hertz and below is coming out of the sub. Everything 60 hertz and above coming out the KRKs. Makes the KRK sound 10 times even better. Why? Because I already did the KRK app, and check that video out. I put a link to that. The app, and adjusted the levels on the KRKs, and then running the crossover at that frequency cutoff at 60 hertz, I'm getting even cleaner sound from the KRKs, but it's still a punchy low end. But now I get that sub low and the bass guitar low. It's a whole different level. It's completely room filling. I had to take you guys down here to the floor, and we're looking at the Kaliaudio subwoofer, and specifically the Kaliaudio WS12 live and studio, or studio/live subwoofer. So we're gonna look at some of its features. I'll show a little unboxing B-roll, but I wanted to come down here with the sub just to show the scale of it. You know, me sitting next to it, I'm like probably 6'2", so you can look at the size of this, you know, sub. Some of the benefits of having a subwoofer, we're gonna look at that as well. I didn't think I would need a sub with the KRK studio monitors, or in the studio period, because they represent you know, great low end. But I did a little research and found a good deal on this sub, because for what it is, I would argue it's probably the best sub, or one of the best subs on the market. Now, it's not, again, in the range of like a Focal sub or a, you know, Genelec sub. It's a step below that, but for the price point compared to those, you're talking 3 times the price. And you can check it out at your like Sweetwater, American Musical, and they have payment plans that they set up. And, you know, that's always an awesome route to go with studio gear. And that way you can fit it in your budget. But, you know, you don't have to get this particular sub. There are other subs in all different price ranges and all different budgets. But what was nice about this one is the features, the power, and it matches with the KRK studio monitors perfect. And I'll show the back panel and some of the features there. Also, I'll just run through some of the specs real quick. So I got the spec sheet right here. It's power, Class D, continuous power, 500 watts, peak power, 1,000 watts. It covers at -10 decibels, 23 hertz through 160 hertz. I'm not gonna go through all the technical data. You can look it up on Kaliaudio's website. It weighs 63 pounds, so it's a quality sub, you know, and it reaches up to 123 dB. So one thing that this sub taught me, and I have it sitting on isoacoustic sub isolator from the floor, but one thing that this sub showed me is gain staging, how important it is. And I talked about that a little bit in the KRK Rocket 10.3 G4 Part 2. That's a long title, but I talked about that in the video. So next up, we'll just briefly talk about placement in the studio. I found that I have a buildup of low end in the back of my room, so I put the sub in the front of the room. I wanted to try and do something where I put it behind my desk turned backwards, and refraction and reflection, it didn't work out. I may try it again, it may, but I found that just setting it up here, and there are brings me to another feature on here. You have your back controls. You have a crossover which you can control, and it shows you, and I'll show kind of a diagram of it, but it shows you, if you have the LP6 from Kaliaudio, what to do on the dip switches. It goes through all the different ones: 60 hertz, 80 hertz, 100 hertz, external crossovers. And see, the external crossover is nice because you can buy a higher end external crossover and run and use that with this sub if you want. So that's another solution. But this crossover is good. You just have to, again, gain stage. You have gain adjustment, whether you have it setting up against a wall, in the middle of the room. If you can get in the middle of the room, great. If you can't, work with what you got. It has support for a foot pedal, which I'm going to put a link for the foot pedal I found on Amazon for like $20. So, that's a feature that a lot of high-end subs have. This has it. And again, you have your inputs, outputs, you have your volume, your power on, off, all of those things. But my overall thought on this and feeling, the quality is good. And there's a few reviews of this sub. I try to take my time with the equipment and actually use it, because these are purchases and things that I use and nobody's sending me, so it's my hard-earned money. So I'm trying to put it into the most efficient and most bang for your buck. However, still investing into a nice piece of equipment. This is an awesome sub. It said it can also be used for live sessions, I guess. I don't know if I would, I'm not going to use it for that. I have it in the studio, but, I had to get down here and just show the scale of this thing, because it's an awesome sub, man. And the low end, the difference is incredible. Now, I'm going to talk some more about it, but we're going to get back in the chair because I'm getting tired of sitting down here. All right, I'll be right back. Putting the sub in the front of the room, and I talked a little bit about that when I was down there looking at it, but by putting it in the front, I kind of counterbalanced that and adjusting it. You have dip switches on here. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. You can set up the dip switches to match your frequency responses, or if you have Kaliaudio monitors, of course, they make it easy to match with their monitors. I personally went with the KRK as my midfield setup because of the power, the depth. Man, that KRK, the 10.3 is unmatched in my opinion. But adding this sub, it gives you the depth to mix correctly, levels. It helped me to adjust the levels and get a better, I'll say, because I had it gain stage, but this allowed me to stage it even more efficiently. And the sound is, man, I'm loving it. It was like an emotional experience sitting in here when I first turned it on and got everything hooked up. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the cables that you need to hook it up, but you will need, I will go through them. I'm not going to show them all, but I'll put links to what you need, because you may need different lengths. But you're going to need, obviously, a TSR or TRS, one of the, I forget, out to a, female XLR, and then you need a male XLR, and I may be getting that backwards. Look it up. But you have to, and I'll show the back panel so you can see, but you have to make sure you have the right connections for the in and out, so it'll pass through that crossover. And I found mine at Monoprice, and you can get all of the wires you need for much cheaper than you would on other sites. Sorry, not hating, it's just the truth. Monoprice is the greatest. If you don't know about them, find out about them. So, back to the sub, once I realized how it had to be staged, I can live with, there's still a hiss, I'm be honest. So I'm saying that to say, when you check this out, keep that in mind. You're going to have to gain stage. And I was talking about specifically the point of those three things with the sub. One, the low deep bass. Second, I didn't get off track. Second, the volume. You can correctly adjust the volume, because even with the low end coming out of the KRKs, as I turn the volume up, the low end is a little bit distorted because that speaker's trying to cover such a wide range of frequency. Sending that low end to the sub allows those speakers to shine, as well as the sub, it's handling all that low end, and you can dial it in perfectly. So that's the second reason why a sub is so optimal in the studio versus just having the monitors. Even if you have, say, like Adam T8Vs with a large 8-inch woofer, if you add a sub to that, I think they have a 10-inch sub, because you have to make the sub and the satellites to work together as far as power wise. You know, it takes it to a whole nother level. Now, the third reason, you can move the low end. When you have just like the KRKs, I can't really move the low end anywhere because they're up there. But when I have a sub, I can move the low end to the back of the room, to this corner of the room, that wherever you need it to be, and you just can't do that. You physically just can't do that. So those are the 3 points of why a subwoofer is so optimal in the studio. You get a deeper low end, a much fuller, richer, punchier. You can adjust the level and you can move it. You know, those 3 things are beneficial when it comes to having a sub in your studio. I'm doing this is a dual video because I'm talking about subwoofers while I'm reviewing, the Kaliaudio sub, but they both go hand in hand. So those are some things I learned hooking up this subwoofer. What I really think about it, I would recommend it if you have 8-inch speakers or up, as far as your satellites, because it would be too powerful for say 5-inch monitors. But that's, again, there's so many different subs on the market. Check it out. I brought up some of the points you want to look for: that foot pedal switch, the crossover functionality, the volume switch, just how that setup works and how it will work with your satellite monitors. So those are just some of the points that I took from, my experience with this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what sub you're working with, if you have a sub. If you don't, let me know what you think if you have the Kaliaudio subwoofer and your experience with it. I hope this information could be helpful. And, as always, man, I always try to leave the studio on a good, positive note. And today my thought is just this. You don't know what's going to happen next week, 2 days from now, tomorrow. So each day is a blessing. Use that day for what you can till it's to its fullest, and do what you can to help others around you when you have the opportunity. All right. KRK Beats for Out the Box Studios, reviewing the Kaliaudio WS12 studio and live subwoofer for Out the Box Studios, man. KRK Beats. Peace.